for the broken hearted.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. This is a very special episode. John and Wendy talk to Debra Squyres of Namely. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Wendy. How are you, John?
Wendy, I am great. I have been so excited to get ready to record this show. So, as I mentioned, we're going to have Debra from Namely on the show tonight. Namely is fantastic. We had an opportunity to first meet Nora with Namely back at SHRM 18 and had a tremendous conversation with her. We really felt like it was an organization that matches up with our audience and who we are, and I think it's just a tremendous start of a relationship. Talking to Debra here, and then this show comes out Monday the 17th. So that following Sunday, the 23rd, Namely is going to be our co-host and sponsor for the monthly chat. So maybe Wendy, you could talk a little bit about what that chat's going to be all about.
Definitely. So we're very excited to welcome Debra here tonight. And our chat in September is everybody's favorite topic, employee relations, right? We love that part of our job. And we probably, I might be not being too facetious there, but it is the challenging part. And it's just going to be a great opportunity for us to get some tips and tricks from each other, and also using Namely with their vast, their storehouses of information that they've used seen from their clients, and also have from the blog that they share on their website.
Absolutely. And most of you that have listened to the show remember Namely was our first superhero for the scholarship program. And again, just so excited to be establishing this relationship. Wendy, I'll let you make the introduction and we'll get going.
All right. So excited to welcome Debra Squyres tonight. She is Namely's Chief Client Officer, and she is the voice of the client throughout Namely, infusing the client perspective in all decisions, processes, and strategies. She works across Namely to ensure a holistic client experience and accelerate growth by driving a highly engaged client base through client advocacy and brand loyalty initiatives, increasing the strength of the client base and removes barriers to a successful client experience. Debra joined Namely in 2015 and has over 25 years of experience in senior leadership roles in human resources, ranging from in-house HR leadership to HR consulting, outsourcing, and client services and successes, working directly with HR teams across a variety of industries, company sizes, and stages. Debra holds a Master's of Business Administration in HR from the University of Dallas and a Bachelor of Business Administration and Marketing from the University of Texas in Arlington. Debra's deepest passions in human resources are in leadership, engagement and culture, and talent development. Debra, welcome to the show. And our first question is always, what's in your glass?
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, John, for having me. So today I have Matanzas Creek Merlot. It's my very favorite wine. And I thought for a great conversation that I should have a good glass of wine to go along with it.
Love it.
Definitely.
Love it.
Yes.
We get points already. We love it when the fan. Yes, that's always great. Water's good too. Please don't get me wrong, folks, but that's great. We always enjoy hearing what the flavor of the month may be.
Yeah.
But Debra, I'm curious, having heard your bio, I know we've not really had a chance to talk too much. We've traded a few notes here and there on Twitter, but how exactly did you get started in your career in human resources?
Great question. Like many people, I actually unintentionally ended up in human resources, but I knew once I got here that I was in the right place. So many years ago, I was in undergrad working on a marketing degree with the goal of going into public relations, a focus on crisis management or crisis communications, which I think prepared me well for human resources, to be honest. I worked my way through school, and I needed to find a full-time position close to college. And as luck would have it, I went to work for a really large financial services company in Dallas as an employee relations specialist. And I still marvel at the fact that they hired me with no experience. It was a great experience. I learned a lot in that role, certainly learned how to use crisis communication skills. But I just found that I was in the right place. But fun fact, when I started at that company, the dress code and the employee policy manual, which is what it was called at that time, required women to wear dresses or skirts with pantyhose at all times. And we had just become human resources from the personnel management label. Wow. So, yeah, wow. It was a long time ago.
Well, Deborah, I have to say I worked for a company, I would have been about 7, 8 years ago, and they still had the requirement of pantyhose. Didn't always have to wear a skirt or a dress, but if you did have to wear pantyhose. And while I was there, they did change that. So there's still some holdouts.
Wendy, I feel for you. I can't imagine being in that environment anymore.
I can't either. And yeah, when I went there and they told me that, I was like, I don't own any pantyhose. Oh my God. Let's go to Target. So, Deborah, as a practitioner, what's your favorite part of the job?
So, okay, it's interesting. I have two answers for this. One, as far as HR goes, it's ever changing, and the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis are always different. And I really love that variety. I thrive in that environment. So that keeps me fresh and keeps me motivated. But as far as the HR practitioner side of things, my true passion is in organization design and transformation. I've worked in many companies in HR proper, and now on the provider side, leading client success and client services organizations where there's been a lot of rapid change and growth, which is a great thing. But it requires that you really dig deep into what is the future of work as that company continues to scale, and how do you partner with your team members to plan that out and really to help them achieve their career goals and ambitions through the transformation of the company.
Awesome.
So Deborah, you've been with Namely for several years now. Really kind of a two-part question. What attracted you initially to join the company, and then what keeps you there now?
Great question. It's actually pretty interesting. So, as you know, Namely's mission is to help companies build a better workplace. So it's a mission that resonates with me personally, coming from within the HR space and then working with so many HR leaders to build their businesses and to build their teams. I first learned of Namely at my last company, where I was heading up the client services organization for a company called TriNet, a large professional employer organization. And oddly enough, or funny enough, I was losing my most progressive clients to Namely at a fast clip. And then someone that I mentored there went to work at Namely. So I began to learn about Namely from an insider's point of view. At TriNet, I worked with a lot of small and growing companies, but we continued to lose them as they got to that mid-market. So, I really looked at what was happening in the market. And it wasn't long ago that companies in that mid-market space didn't have solutions that were truly focused on them. At the small end, you had PEOs and smaller tech and service providers. And then at the large end, you had really heavy enterprise platforms. But the really juicy work for me and what I enjoy are those mid-sized companies from 50 to about 5,000 employees. And Namely came into the space and built a really reputable brand and a sophisticated solution that allowed those mid-sized companies to scale elegantly along the spectrum from small company to small enterprise. What keeps me here is really, our focus on employee engagement. We're proud to be the HRIS that employees love to use, and we're also proud to commit to an exceptional workplace internally. I love that we can use the system at Namely, and our clients can use it in the same way to communicate and align across a distributed workforce. We have powerful tools that engage employees and keep them communicating with each other, with their leaders, and help align them to the business. So, as a former in-house HR practitioner and a leader with a strong commitment to an exceptional client experience, it's a compelling situation for me to be at that intersection of really progressive HR leaders who are driving the future of what this profession will be and great technology.
That's just very cool. So kind of jumping off of that a little bit, when people ask you about Namely, how do you explain the company and what you do?
Yeah. So I really describe Namely as an all-in-one suite that covers your HRIS, payroll, benefits administration, and time and attendance needs. But it's really so much more than that. The power is in the employee engagement and alignment platform that, when you use it properly and to its fullest extent, can really ensure that your employees are interacting with each other and encouraging each other, are working with their leaders and engaging with the company as a whole on a daily basis. So that's really, what I emphasize is the difference in that employee engagement.
Now, we know there's no such thing as a normal day for any of us, Deborah. I don't think we've ever had a normal day, but you go to a job interview and tell me about a normal day. I'm not going to ask that, but if I meet you just like you tell somebody about Namely, what do you tell them that the chief client officer does at Namely? What do you do day to day?
Yeah. Well, you're right. It's definitely different every day. It's a new, fun, and exciting adventure. But when you step back and look at what I'm focused on, it really falls into one of four categories. I spend a lot of time with our client communities, nurturing and building them. Whether it's a meetup, last week I was in Austin, the week before that it was in Atlanta, working with the local community, or it's our online community that we offer to our clients on Backstage Pass. I'm out with clients in groups and individually nearly every week. So I have a lot of time in front of clients learning about their business, how they're using Namely, and what's happening in their worlds that we can continue to help them solve for. I also serve as the voice of the client across Namely. So I work across the business to impact product, process, and people strategy in ways that have a meaningful impact on the client experience. So it includes facilitating our client experience surveys, which are very similar for an HR practitioner to an employee engagement survey, but it's with our clients. Bringing clients in to spotlight their companies, their use of Namely, and their experiences. My job is to bring the client experience and the clients to life for every colleague across Namely, whether they're in the front office or in finance, or they're in client success or in sales or marketing. And then I work with our content team really closely on thought leadership. And I work with our clients to develop those thought leadership pieces and next and best practices that help mid-sized HR practitioners solve for the challenges that they're facing in their day-to-day. And then finally, I work with marketing and sales to maximize our impact with customers and prospects where we have the best product market fit. And then I also work with product and sales to advocate for product features and functionality that expand our addressable market. So it really runs a very wide gamut, but it's all around ensuring that everything that we do at Namely, whether it's product, process, people, communication, thought leadership, it's focused on the client.
Do you need an assistant chief client officer? That sounds fantastic. I love it. I love the whole idea of touching every. That's fantastic. I love the.
It's tremendous fun. It's tremendous fun.
Well, it shows that you are spending time with the client who, face it, you wouldn't be here without your clients, right? So I love that you guys spend time with them and learn what's going on and are able to find a solution for them. So what are you seeing as the number one HR issue that your clients are dealing with currently? And then how does Namely go about addressing that?
As thought leaders yourselves, you know that priorities and problems shift over time, so it's a moving target. Right now, really what we're focused on and what we hear from clients falls into one of three major categories: data and analytics, diversity and inclusion, and engagement and culture. So from a data and analytics perspective, really streamlining access to data and insights that help HR leaders quantify their impact. It helps them prioritize investments and new strategies and engage the entire company in critical conversations that are fact and data based about the workplace. So to address that need, we released a new analytics tool earlier this year, and we're now considering how we generate deeper insights to simplify HR leaders' access to the data that they need and the insights that they need to continue to build a better workplace. Diversity and inclusion, as HR leaders, we've become wiser about digging into the details of our progress on diversity and balancing diversity goals with a strong emphasis on inclusion. Being able to articulate not only your holistic diversity at the company, but also drilling down by team, location, and job level, it actually helps you identify in every corner of the organization how far you've come and what you still need to improve. So in June, while we were at SHRM, we announced the launch of our diversity dashboard in our analytics tool that really simplifies access to that data needed to understand results and prioritize future efforts. And we also released our diversity report, which shared key benchmarks across about 1,000 companies and over 150,000 employees. So we then, we delivered those two pieces, good access to your own data for our clients, and then the benchmarking information through our diversity report. And we embarked after that on a thought leadership campaign to share practices that were having a meaningful impact on key areas. So HR practitioners were really armed with not only how they're doing, how they compare to the general mid-market, but also what can they do to solve their particular problems. And we're continuing to build upon that thought leadership several months later with contributions from people who are known as diversity and inclusion experts outside of the Namely client base and Namely community, as well as our clients sharing what they've done that has really helped them improve in diversity and inclusion. And then finally, in the area of engagement and culture, companies these days are really remote, distributed, and often global, and they face a rapidly changing environment, not only in the pursuit of talent, but also in the regulatory landscape. So they're looking for a means to engage with their employees and drive the culture in an increasingly challenging set of circumstances. And our feed, which is very much like a Facebook feed, the goals, the performance management, and some of the other features really simplify communication and alignment across the business, no matter what the demographic, no matter what the distribution is across the business. So that's really, I know that's a long-winded answer, but there's not one problem that we're all trying to solve. I think we all know that we've got lots of priorities and lots of work to do.
Wouldn't life be a lot easier if there was just, here's this one thing in HR we need to solve?
Yes, that will be a great day.
That will be.
Well, with all those problems out there and things to solve, we shouldn't say they're problems, they're teachable moments or what have you. Namely's had some really big announcements lately, Deborah. You had a large round of funding come through and recently named Elisa Steele as your new CEO. Any other news or product lineups, anything coming up that you could share with us?
Yeah, so it really has been a great year so far, and we were so excited to have Elisa join us full time. Once she came on board to assist us, we really we latched onto her, and we definitely aren't willing to let her go. We love her. So I'm not authorized to actually steal any thunder from some upcoming really great announcements, but I can share that we're going to be seeing continued enhancements to our analytics tools and insights that we make available to our clients, as well as some of the features that help streamline HR administration processes, kind of that HR people operations focus, so that our clients can really focus on more strategic work across their business, focusing on talent development, attracting and retaining the right talent, and really working with their leaders to build the best workplace that they can.
I have to say,
Awesome.
we have some listeners that are users, and they speak very, very glowingly, so that's tremendous.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. And yeah, it's good stuff all around, for sure.
So we just need to say, stay tuned. There's more.
Yes.
And
definitely.
in case my boss is listening, I was just kidding about the assistant client chief officer. Because he does listen ever so often. I'm just kidding, boss.
All right, Deborah, it is now time for everyone's favorite part of our show, the half-hour question connection. And John's going to kick us off tonight.
Deborah, how's networking helped you in your career, and what's been really effective for you when it comes to networking?
Networking really, I think, is responsible for getting me to where I am today. If you heard about my story of coming to Namely, I have a very similar story all the way through my career of having the right connections, bringing me in and bringing me along in my career. I really feel like networking is the lifeblood of professional growth and access to talent and access to the insights that we need to continue to grow. I found it really effective to create opportunities to connect people, not only focusing on my own needs in networking, but also being that matchmaker for others. And it's amazing how that can snowball. I still do the big events like SHRM and HR Tech, and I go to a lot of local events sponsored by local HR associations as well. But networking is really, for me, about relationships. So quality really trumps that quantity. And so I focus on opportunities every day to connect with people, whether it's a quick chat on Twitter, or it's a phone call to talk to somebody who's looking to make a career transition, or it's someone coming out of school looking for their first break into HR or the space. So I try to spend a little bit of time every week making those personal connections, because those are the ones that really help propel those individuals and yourself in this world.
Nice. Who do you follow or read for HR insights?
So, well, of course, I follow you and John, Wendy. You know, it's a variety of people. Some are well-known, some are less well-known. I definitely follow George LaRocque and Steve Bowes in the HR tech space. I really am enjoying HR open source as, you know, an additional resource in addition to SHRM. I love NextChat and Mary Kaler. And then individually, I follow like Steve Brown, Jennifer McClure. And then there are a ton of people who, and it started with clients that are just in these really progressive companies who are just really open and transparent about the work that they're doing and sharing a lot of insights and lessons learned. So I find it's really helpful to have a broad group of individuals that you follow. And then outside of the space, I like to read McKinsey's articles, Accenture's articles. I like to kind of mix it up with some of the business side of things as well.
Debra, how do you enjoy giving back to the HR community?
I think it somewhat follows my answer on networking. I really enjoy connecting people who may be a good fit for each other, whether it's mentoring or the next opportunity for someone to grow in their career. I really like to make those personal connections and match people up. I also really enjoy talking with people about their career aspirations and never really turn down an opportunity to help someone looking to make a transition. So I spend a lot of time, working with individuals in the HR space who are looking to get to that next level or to make a transition into another aspect of the discipline, somebody who's a strong employee relations expert who wants to get into compensation or something along those lines. And then thought leadership. I like to contribute to thought leadership and share out what I've learned and what I've seen others doing.
Cool. What's your favorite movie?
Well, right now it's Brooklyn. I know it's a couple of years old, but I love a good coming of age period piece, something set, at another time. I love New York and I love Ireland. So it's many of the things that I love all rolled into a great story and performance.
How about your favorite musician or band?
Is it going to date me if I say anything 80s hair band?
Not at all. You're amongst friends, Debra.
Yes.
No judging.
Awesome. Those are awesome. Good choice. Favorite TV show?
That's hard to narrow it down, but this will say a lot about my personality. I love any of the Law and Order franchises and Blue Bloods.
Well, Debra, I always look for connection. You and my wife at Blue Bloods. She
I
watches
love
that show a lot too. Any hairband in particular? I'm kind of looking at my notes here.
My first concert ever was Bon Jovi, so I'm a huge fan.
Nice.
Oh, well, if you haven't heard that story, I'll share it. May have some new listeners. A friend of mine was Bon Jovi's arborist for several years in the Hamptons. So
oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's really funny. He was always told, "Don't ask for autographs. Don't ask for autographs." Worked with him for years, and another one of my friends is a huge Bon Jovi fan, and my buddy finally went up to him and said, Mr. Bon Jovi, I know I'm not supposed to ask you, would you mind signing this? And he said, no problem, and he signed a copy of Slippery When Wet for my other friend.
Oh, that was actually my first concert that I went to was on their Slippery When Wet tour.
There you go. Nice. Well, if you're not watching Brooklyn or listening to hair bands, watching Law and Order and Blue Bloods, what else do you like to do outside of work?
I love traveling. So love going new places. I love cooking and baking and spending time with my family.
We haven't had baking. I like that.
I don't think we have.
I don't think anybody said baking.
Well, you'll have to come for a visit.
Done and done.
Let us know when. So, Debra, if you weren't doing what you're doing now in the HR realm, what do you think you'd be doing professionally?
I think I'd probably be a professional or executive coach. I really love and get a lot of energy from helping people overcome either real barriers or what they perceive as barriers for themselves. I love watching somebody get in touch with what they're capable of doing, really with their greatness, and achieve their ambitions. I really enjoy that.
Well, Debra,
Very cool.
you have survived the conversation, the question connection. We can't thank you enough. And again, as I said at the outset, starting the conversation with Nora several months ago, so excited to be partnering with you all at Namely, on this particular show and with the chat about employee relations. That if you're listening when it comes out or prior to September 23rd, I'll be co-hosting that show. But
yes,
for those of our listeners that don't know you, Debra, what's the best way to reach you out there online? Not just you, but also if they're interested in learning more about Namely as an organization and the products. Tell everybody how to get in touch.
Yeah, of course. So you can always reach out to me personally at Debra@namely.com. That's Debra @namely.com. And you can also find out more about Namely, including reaching out to our sales team directly through namely.com. That's also where we house all of our thought leadership, which is completely accessible to the public.
Awesome.
We will have all that in the show notes for sure. Wendy, how should folks get in touch with you out there?
Sure. Best way is always on Twitter. I am Windle93. Happy to connect and get to know you there. You can also find me on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. Daily is D as in dog, AILEY. Happy to connect on LinkedIn as well. Just reach out. Let me know why you're interested in connecting. And we've talked about it a couple of times, but please join us every fourth Sunday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitter for the HR Social Hour chat. How about you, John?
Twitter, John, Jon _Thurmond, THURMOND. I'm also happy to connect on LinkedIn. Do you want to connect there? If you'll send me a note, either let me know you've heard the podcast or take part in the chat, I always appreciate that. If you have a comment or question about the show or a monthly chat, send us an email, hrsocialhourpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook if you search the HR Social Hour. You can find the show at hrsocialhourpodcast.podbean.com or on iTunes, Podbean, Podchaser, hrpodcasters.com, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. And as always, if you like what you hear, rate and review. Again, all those thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever the platform may be, it helps the visibility and helps us to continue to build the community. So again, Deborah, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And so for the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast, I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. And as always, be sure to connect,
give back, and
network.
Take care, everyone.
We'll see you soon.